You've probably never wondered what it would be like if Samuel L. Jackson's character Steven from Django Unchained was elected to the role of lieutenant governor. Nonetheless, that question nobody wanted the answer to has been answered in North Carolina's lieutenant governor and current candidate for governor, Mark Robinson. Sadly, Marky Mark shares the day of my birth, August 18th, albeit he started disgracing our planet a few years earlier in 1968. Ironically, that was the same year the Civil Rights Act was passed, something he rallies against despite having benefited immensely from. He was the ninth of 10 children, thanks to North Carolina's horrible sex education, a tradition he has fought hard to keep, because, you just don't fuck with tradition. After graduating from Grimsley High School, he joined the Army Reserve for a time. In the next few decades, he spent not being able to hold down a steady job in the furniture manufacturing industry, and then filing bankruptcy, and then not being able to hold down a steady job in the restaurant industry, and then filing bankruptcy, and then filing bankruptcy again, and then not paying his taxes, and then finally going to work for his wife Yolanda's daycare business. Being a pathetic failure of a man, he turned where many pathetic failures of men turned to in the 90s and early 2000s to find a scapegoat for their inability to be a functional member of society. Rush Limbaugh. After reading a bunch of garbage printed on dead trees Limbaugh tried passing off as a book, Marky Mark said Rush made him realize that he was and always had been a fragile, insecure, hateful little man. Sorry, conservative. In 2017, Mr. Robinson enrolled in the University of North Carolina, Greensboro in an attempt to get a history degree so he could teach history, likely because Mrs. Robinson was sick of having to employ her deadbeat husband. Then in 2018, when the Greensboro City Council was considering canceling the upcoming gun show after the Stoneman Douglas school shooting, Skidmark showed up to speak in favor of gun rights and how the show must go on. Unfortunately, somebody recorded his diatribe and posted it to social media, where conservative lobby groups who are always in search of token minorities who hate themselves to help spread their fascist propaganda took note. And despite his only qualifications being how to fill out bankruptcy paperwork, the NRA invited him to speak at their annual convention. After receiving his golden ticket into Calvin Candy's house, he dropped out of school to pursue a full-time career of being a shill. Now, despite Mark of Satan having no political or policy experience, no business experience, no formal education credentials beyond a 3-decade-old high school diploma, no real activism, nonprofit, or community organizing experience, he did have the one unique qualification of being a person of melanin who hates every minority group, including his own, peddles wild conspiracy theories, and doesn't believe in the separation of Christofascism and state. The Republican Party was not about to let that rare and golden opportunity go to waste. But where do you best utilize an unqualified, incompetent idiot who has no idea how government works? After all, their candidate for president had already been picked. But as it turns out, North Carolina is one of 17 states who has a useless but powerful position for a useless idiot. The lieutenant governor position. Now, where most states' governorships are modeled in part after the presidency, where the person running for governor chooses a running mate as their lieutenant governor, in the same way that the president chooses a vice president, in North Carolina, they are two entirely separate elections. And while popular incumbent Democrat Governor Roy Cooper was running for re-election, there was no incumbent running for the lieutenant governor position. And since the lieutenant governor doesn't actually do much, this was the perfect position for a guy who doesn't know how to do much. To make things even more favorable for them, the Democrats ran an African-American woman against him, meaning that the conservatives didn't have to worry about their voters having a paler option on the ballot, making it so their bigotry was funneled towards misogyny instead. And that was a winning strategy. Mark Robinson became lieutenant governor in 2020 and has really done nothing but hate speech ever since. In addition to all of his greatest hits, like being militantly against women's health care access, denying climate change that obviously doesn't exist, as I film this in a t-shirt at the end of the warmest recorded winter in Minnesota history, opposing, decriminalizing, or legalizing marijuana. He wants to end the separation of church and state in public schools, abolish the State Board of Education, and get this, he wants to ban teaching science and social studies in elementary school. What? Jesus Christ, North Carolina, this is one of your candidates for governor this year, and we haven't even gotten to the bad stuff yet. Because it gets so much worse. He claimed COVID was a hoax to defeat Donald Trump. I'm sure it's absolutely no surprise that he loathes every single member of the LGBTQ community. He advocated for trans people to get arrested if they used the bathroom and suggested that if they needed to go to the bathroom, they should find a corner outside, which would actually be illegal. He said transgenderism and homosexuality is filth, and then he doubled down saying that, yes, I called it filth, and if you don't like that I called it filth, come find me and I'll explain it to you. Which honestly, if you ever did want to learn about filth, there's no better example than Mark Robinson. He said heterosexual couples are superior to homosexual couples because of, God and babies and all of that. And then went on to say that cow manure, maggots, and flies were also superior to homosexuals because at least they have a purpose. You know what else has a purpose? Condoms. Too bad nobody explained their purpose to his parents sometime between child 1 and 8. He said people who support transgenderism are seeking to glorify Satan. His reaction to the Pulse nightclub shooting was to say that homosexuality is still abominable. Speaking of shootings, he called the survivors of the Parkland shootings, spoiled little bastards, and media prostitutes. He defended the Kent State Massacre and has stated that school shootings are karma for abortion. When you're dumb enough to believe that abortion is killing children, obviously the bad karma you get for that is killing children. Speaking of abortion and self-hatred, he said that African Americans kill millions of babies with abortion every year. He's compared African Americans to primates and called them other names I'm not going to repeat because of, community guidelines and common fucking decency. And he's actively promoted white pride, saying that that's not racist. And if all of these other groups get to have pride, then he should be able to celebrate white pride. Except he's very much not white. But hey, it can't get any worse than that, right? Right? Oh, I've got a fucking headache. All right, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're just about to the big drop on this rickety, carny, meth head assembled roller coaster. Because while he has advocated against teaching children anything about science or social studies or anything LGBTQ related, at a Moms for Liberty conference, he advocated for teaching kids the readings of Adolf, which would make sense considering he's a Holocaust denier. He said that the movie Black Panther was created by an agnostic Jew and put into film by satanic Marxists to steal money from black people. And I PG'd that statement up a tad. He said that there's a cabal of international Jewish bankers and the Rothschilds are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. At least that's what one of his best buds, extremist pastor and man who wants to be king of the United States, Sean Moon, said with Robinson in an interview, and Robinson's like, yeah, what he said. He also defended Bill Cosby, saying that the accusations against him were an Illuminati conspiracy. Basically, if there's a cringe take to be had, he takes it and he's like, how could I make cringe from this cringe take? And then proceeds to put that on the internet. And now he's a Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina in 2024. And if you vote for him, make no mistake, you are a horrible fucking person. He is the absolute scum of the earth, and if you support him, guess what that makes you? He's also apparently now in trouble for campaign finance fraud, not that that's ever stopped Republicans before. It should be easy for you to not be horrible people because his opponent is North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein. Josh Stein is competent, he has experience, he hasn't committed campaign finance fraud that I'm aware of, he graduated from college and law school, and he doesn't constantly spew hate speech, want to take women's rights away, and replace social studies and science with Mein Kampf. Make the right choice, North Carolina. It's pathetic that this guy has ever been on a ballot. Try to make sure that he's never on one again. Now I need ibuprofen, washed down with lots and lots of whiskey.